So when we had that assigned writer, when you're meeting with your writer and your client success manager, we're digging through a lot of things about you and those questions and the material to find your voice. So we can find not only your voice, but the voices that the voice that you want to sound like, and then marry those things together and make sure it's content that is going to benefit you and your business, and also that you can speak on. There's so many of these aspects that you have to do the research up front before you ever get into even writing the book, right?
Yeah.
And actually getting to publishing. Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Tamara Thompson with Broadcast Your Authority, and I'm excited about our next guest, Corey Gladwell. He's a 4 times best-selling author, speaker, executive coach, and CEO and co-founder of Authors.io, a book publishing company for busy professionals. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today, Corey. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm very excited. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about what inspired you to actually create Authors.io.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I initially, when I was in my early 20s, I was an entrepreneur, a lot of brick and mortar businesses, restaurant, had a nightclub for a while, started a vodka brand. And while it sounds amazing to be 23 and to do those things, especially having come from nothing growing up, after like 2 years, I was just wiped out. I was done. And, bankrupt spiritually, emotionally, mentally. I started meditating and kind of turning inward and asking, questions. And throughout those questions, it really, for me, was able to, unlock a lot of insights, wrote those insights down. It took 5 years, but I published my first book. And with the help of my media agency at the time, I launched it to a bestseller and, did speaking and consulting and brought in an additional $365,000 in new added revenue directly correlated from the book. And so after that, friends at masterminds and business partners were like, hey, what was that? Can you do that for me? And so, yeah, fast forward, 8, maybe almost 9 years later, we've had, hundreds of clients now and really built up this, publishing company that's helped. So.
I love that. I love the fact that you did something, you were inspired by it, and then created that into your own ability to help people. You said you've helped hundreds of books launched?
Yeah, we've done just over, I think, 200 now. Just over 200 now. Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you think the unique gap is in the market that you fill?
So honestly, and I know this is something we were talking about earlier with product market fit, right? Like when you, as an entrepreneur, you build what you wish you had, and not always is that true, right? Mm-hmm. But the publishing company, Authors, and the amazing team we have there is really what I wish I would have had when I started writing my first book. Again, it took me 5 years. I hand wrote it like I'm from 1985. I still have like the journal, and so when I fast forward to us helping clients. It was like, how can we help someone who is the CTO of the city of Toronto, or who is, someone who's working for GQ magazine and an editor and life coaching and doing all these different things, or someone who is, a VP at some major, Goldman Sachs or something like that. How can we help them if they don't have the time in the day to sometimes eat lunch? How are they going to write a book, right? And they have the wisdom, they have the experience. So how can we structure it that way? And that's really, how we built Authors.io, where we can, bring on a new client. We have a handful of calls with them, and via those handful of calls with their client success manager, our team can write the book, edit the book, publish the book, launch it to a bestseller, show them how to make those revenue streams from speaking, consulting, how to get TED Talks, what have you, and actually monetize their experience.
Can you share some specific success stories of clients that you've helped them do just that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned just a second ago, one of our clients, Lawrence Etta, was the former CTO of the city of Toronto during the pandemic, actually. So like their whole digital aspect, how do we engage with lockdown? How do we have the capacity to do that? He kind of built that structure with his team. After that, he was I don't know if recruited is the right word, but brought to Saudi Arabia to work with the Saudi royal family to build the cities of the future. Their 2030 Vision 2030, I think is what it's called. And so he's got amazing experience, right? He's much smarter than I am, and got this resume that's just
you're a smart guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But how do we package that up while he's still doing what he's doing in a different part of the world, and then be able to not only help him write this best-selling book, but then launch it to a bestseller, help him with the book launch, make sure he can actually monetize his TED Talk, and then get these consulting clients, and work with either governments or corporations to build their digital twin and all of the smart things he does that I'm not going to try and butcher, but that's one great example. There's many more. So. Yeah.
I have a question because the book writing world is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
What can you kind of like delineate the difference between like someone who's primarily an author, right? Say, like George R.R. Martin, obviously not writing the same kind of books that you're working on.
Exact same books.
Right. Yeah. Like, it was big on the song Ice and Fire. But like somebody like their primary means of income is sales of the book. And it seems like most of the people you're working with, like that's not going to be, the book sales aren't necessarily going to be a major driver, or maybe they are. I'm curious about that. Like if somebody's like, oh, I just want to be an author, I just want to write books, is like what you're doing sort of the path for them? Or is it more like, no, if you're looking to like build a personal brand where you speak and where you maybe create a course at some point, and books is a part of that, it's a piece of that.
That's a great question. Yeah. And that's a question we get a lot actually, which is it's beneficial to understand. So some of our clients, to your point, some of our clients can make, 1.5 million a year from their speaking and consulting via the book, right? They've landed these keynote speeches, they're doing consulting, scaling up their programs, their personal brand. And they sold 30 books, right? For that same year, right? So there might not be a correlation.
It's just that they have it.
They have the book, right? They have the book. That's the vehicle to get into the next thing. At the same time, though, some of our clients, Jacqueline Hurst is one of them. She's an editor for GQ magazine, and does this amazing life coaching. And so she sold thousands and thousands of books every year, right? And so she can make, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a year in book sales without even really advertising them, just via her socials and the way that she goes about it. So it can work for anyone. What specifically I would say for that person, if they do not want it to be their name. So if there's someone that's like, hey, I want to write the books, be an author, I want to do it in a pen name, I don't want to be myself, we can still do that. But a book as a business with just book sales is a little bit of a different model. They might not get the same exact value. Yeah. That being said, though, any single person we work with, we structure it in a way, like we've worked with a handful of children's authors, right? Children's book authors.
Sure.
Doesn't seem like the ideal client for us at all, but we've done it in such a successful way because what we're doing with anyone who wants to make book sales is still building a brand. If it's a pen name or if it's you, no matter what, you have to build a brand around that book. You have to build a business around that book and understand the end goal. And now we don't do Amazon ads within our offers, our packages, and our services, but we do show you how to do it. And we make sure it's set up that way. And we refer out if that's what you want to do is your main thing. Really the key for us is making sure you have an amazing book that's a best-selling book on the inside as well, not just a launch. And then utilizing that for speaking opportunities, consulting, courses, that kind of personal branding and scaling we were talking about.
Children's book, it's like, I could see that being leveraged into a podcast or into...
We're doing plushies. Right. They have a whole board game,
products,
there's licensing. Now they're going to make an offer to Disney. So like, there's a way to structure any book, however it is, as a business when there's a brand built around it. And for myself, coming from being an entrepreneur, being business minded, and acquisitions and all of that, and then becoming an author, those crossovers don't happen very often. A lot of times it's like, if you're an author, you're writing books, you hope your agent's getting you a deal and earning their 15%. And then the publishing company's going to, do a bunch of sales for you. It's going to be great. A lot of times, especially in today's market, there really isn't that aspect. It's kind of like music industry, right? Like if a new artist says, hey, I want to get signed by this record label. Well, it's like, what following do you have? How many streams have you got? How many sales have you got? What's your audience look like on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is? Now that's how you can actually get that offer from the publishing companies. And so it's very similar with authors, where it's like, if you want to build up that brand, again, if it's a pen name or if it's just your actual personal brand, and position yourself. And then at the end, we'll introduce you to 2 or 3 different book agents, see if they have some magic with you there. They can sign a contract, maybe get you in front of Random or Penguin or a Hay House, whatever it may be. But either way, you have now this platform to build your personal brand on, or to scale it on, and to make new added revenue every single year from the speaking, consulting, and potentially book sales as well. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to step on everybody. I have like one more thing.
No, this is me and you all day.
There's the bit, just us
you're
right
good.
here. Ignore them.
That's it.
So can I just say, I feel like the best-selling author term it gets thrown around a lot. A lot of people have written a bestseller. To me, it smells a little weird. Like I don't know much about the book publishing world, but it seems like there's something off there. Like not everything can be a bestseller. So what is sort of the dirty secret there?
Absolutely. So, and this is true for everything. And I talk about this too. So it's like, and I always hate that there's like this veil of secrecy, when it comes to certain things. This is true for paid ads, for marketing, for all the different businesses we're in, right? There's a way to do launches, right? And so when it comes to books specifically, whether it's a best-selling Amazon book, it's a best-selling Wall Street Journal, or even New York Times, a lot of times there is a structured launch behind it. Now, there are opportunities, or at least there's specific people where when you're doing a launch, you're doing email list partnerships, JV partnerships. Like for us, if we're doing a bestseller launch, we're having it pre-saved, and then we're scheduling with some of our JV partners. So you're going to reach 250, 300,000 people via email for book buyers and readers. We're launching on social media. And so there's an actual launch there that can have, some of the free ebook downloads, but some of the $4.99 or $2.99 ebook sales, and then maybe some paperback, some hardcover. But there has to be a strategic actual launch. Whereas if you just, have 10 people go click a button and there's no one in that category, right? It's like, I reached number 1, but there's only 2 people in the category, right? Because Amazon is very specific on these categories. Mm-hmm. You get to choose 3 different categories. And so, it's good to choose more hyper-targeted ones if they apply to your niche. You can't, just because there's no one in gardening and landscaping in Milwaukee books or whatever the thing is, but your book is about neuroscience or whatever, that's not the thing, And this is true even for New York Times bestseller. And people are probably gonna get mad about this, but a lot of big names when it comes to the New York Times bestseller list, you get those pre-sales, you have 10 friends buy 1,000 copies each for their companies. Mm-hmm. And now when that launch happens, Tuesday through Sunday or whatever day it is for that launch for that week, you got 10,000 copies sold. Yeah. And not that this is horrible, right? You did sell the books, but I feel like the smell you're smelling, right? To identify
everybody's a best-selling author.
There's a disingenuous kind of aspect to it. And so I do think there's value to being a best-selling author because it's the same thing, kind of like with whether it's with speaking, whether it's TED Talk.
Yeah, it's positioning.
It's positioning.
I mean, if you want to spread the idea, you need to get the product out there.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because that opens more doors.
Because that opens more doors.
It does. Yeah. And to us, when we're in this, similar worlds, right? So to us, everyone is a best-selling author. Mm-hmm. But there's 8 billion people out there, and there's a lot of people who aren't best-selling authors, especially the clients or the audience.
Or the people that don't have the strategy like you guys provide. Right.
Exactly.
So that's what it is. Yeah. There's I was about to say like there's a way you game the system. Let me say it in nicer words, right?
There are people that do that though.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's actually similar things in podcasts, like a lot of the ways that you will rise ranks in like Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
It's more about acceleration of subscribers than it is about like downloads, or it's like about acceleration, right? For some of the charts or
some of the ranking abilities. Yeah. There's different ways to be able to have your community help support right away on a batch launch on something. So like here's we've had successful
launch 10 episodes, everybody download all of them. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. So we'll do a batch launch in our methods with our clients for podcasts. And we've seen people, because they're utilizing their list, their community, their group, whatever that is, their clients. Yes, download these, binge listen to the show for that first few days, and boom, they're ranking the top,
smart.
2%.
I think my main point over it wasn't really to like attack the book world or whatever. I used to work on Kickstarter campaigns, and there's a similar any kind of platform. There's always some way where you say like, how do you get to the front page of Kickstarter? How do you get recommended?
Always some kind of hack or something that strategy.
Just knowing the difference between what is what you just described or what I described as far as like the launches, right? Like if you do it
it's smart to do launches though. Like you should do launches.
You should, yeah. And
people are like, I'm just going to launch a podcast and release one episode and then wing it. And I'm like, that's not how you do it.
Then they get no views, they get no momentum, and they don't feel good about it, and they quit.
Then they quit. Most people actually stop. I think it's a high percentage. Most people stop after 8 episodes because they haven't seen any traction, but they didn't ask for help. They didn't actually have a strategy behind it.
So I think it's exactly right. So it's so good to have people to know how to launch it, to do it right, and then to do it in an authentic way. And then there's the disingenuous kind of gamifying it where If it's done where it's like, hey, that's not really a true accurate thing, that's different. Now that I don't like. But if it's like, hey, it was a really intense launch and you did it correctly and you have your JV partners in your list, like that's just genius. And that's where it's like that secret sauce where I like to share it to everyone because, we always think, oh, this is the secret sauce. And it's like, well, you could tell everyone and 9 out of 10 people are never going to do anything with the secret sauce. So
Corey, I have a question for you, just as a potential client of yours, because I've built my personal brand and
Let's turn this into a pitch.
focus it mostly on paid ads. Paid ads have grown my advertising agency, grown my coaching program. How essential is it to have a book when you're looking for the TED Talks and for the speaking engagements, just to build your brand more? Like, how do people do it without a book, or is it kind of like, I'm sure it's your opinion, you need one. So like, why do you feel that?
it's a great question. So I don't know if I feel like everyone needs one, right? I mean, I don't want to hard close you, especially on the podcast. Everyone look away. I'm going to go into sales mode.
Somebody should do a podcast.
Okay, this is an authentic show.
Just hard closing. That's it. And then we have like one of your comedian guys on there, just like giving them all the objections.
He just buys everything. He's like, I don't like conflict.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So you don't necessarily need it. I mean, there's people that, I think Justin yesterday, he's done a couple different TED Talks. I don't think he has a book yet, right? So
correct.
And so there's people that you can get a TED Talk or you can get speaking without it. But when we talk to any kind of PR team, right, or anyone that's booking, if you have a book, especially a best-selling book, or you got some traction with it on the topic that you teach or that you educate on, it's that much easier. Like that's your door in to get on TV. If you want to get on TV, you want to get on speaking engagements, keynote speeches.
I was going to say that specifically, right? So I know a lot of clients that have written books, and so they leverage that not just for TEDx talks. And I know you would agree with me. You have the opportunity to have a book that you can go speak from stages and then share the opportunity for the books. A lot of times people with like JV partners, when you have the right JV partners, if they sometimes will ask you to come speak at an event, and they might even purchase like a copy of your book for the entire audience. You can be there and do a book signing. You can do a partnership. Maybe they buy 10,000 copies or something. We've done that. We've had keynote speakers at our events in the past. We turned around and bought the whole audience for my buddy Sean Cannell from YouTube. We bought his YouTube Secrets book. We partnered with him, but we bought the book and he leveraged it. He did a book signing. We did the same thing with Bob Berg, the Go Giver. We bought the Go Giver for our audience. So it's like there's different ways when you have that book. You can do the JV partnerships and get like 10,000 copies purchased from like events if you want to take on that speaking circuit.
Which is amazing.
I think it's super interesting. Is like one of the things I have here is like, why a book instead of just growing on social, having a course, and like what you guys are kind of saying is
that it's a tool, like a resource.
Think about YouTube Secrets. What's the best format that could be delivered in? Probably an online course.
Or YouTube.
Or on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So why do a book? Because something about speaking engagements makes it so that if I come up here and show my book, you guys are all okay with it. But if I come up here and show my course, you want nothing to do with me, right? So
it depends on if they like to read books or they I won't watch courses because I don't like to.
Well, it's also
like to read a book.
It's another medium.
I mean, event organizers.
Well, you can do audiobooks too. So if you have somebody on Amazon that finds you and they're like, oh, you have an audiobook. I don't know. Do you do audio stuff?
It seems credible, I think, is my point.
And to your point, it's a credibility and authority, right? So when you literally, I wrote the book on it, right?
Broadcasting their authority.
Like, okay, and so when you write, again, it has to be a best-selling book, right? And so writing a best-selling book, having like our writers are writers, that's what they do, right? They're the creatives. And then you have your client success manager who's actually managing your process. You have your editor who's editing, the marketing team, the PR team, everyone kind of comes together. And so when you have that best-selling book, and you go to apply for a speaking engagement somewhere, we always do with our clients, we're like, hey, now you have your best-selling book on your website, here's your speaker page, and you need to have your speaker reel, right, of your 30 seconds or 60 seconds of you, just clips of you speaking. Here's your speaker one sheet. Here's a template we use. Here's how to put it together, all your socials, everything. Here's your talk titles. All those things are important, especially when you're going to apply for a TED Talk or a speaking engagement. And so now it's like, hey, this person just applied. They have a best-selling book on the topic. Here's their talk titles from their speaker one sheet. Here's their speaker reel that we can see them speaking. They can handle themselves on stage. Like if it's you and then whoever else, right, that doesn't have a book or doesn't have any of those, it's like, okay, well,
one with the book is going to win.
This is that person. Yeah. And so even if it's that small of a difference, let alone the fact that it's an easy end. It's a conversation starter. It's how you can get on stages, TV, everything. And to your point as well, a lot of us, especially if we're in high ticket coaching or speaking or consulting, high ticket consulting or anything, you don't want to put together a course because a lot of your ideal clients might not want to look at the course. Maybe you have a course for some people, but you don't want to have a low ticket. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But you can have a book and it doesn't deter from your brand, no matter what you charge. And so it's this little tiny mini you out there, whether it's the ebook, paperback, hardcover. And again, I think it's some crazy statistic. Most people that even buy books, even readers, don't ever finish books, right? So it's like, it doesn't mean they have to finish the book. The fact that you wrote the book and they see the book and they bought the book and they can see reviews, there's this instant credibility, that it's like, oh, well, this is a good book. So-and-so said it was, this is a good review. Here's this. Let me take a look at it. I read a little bit. I like this guy. And maybe 1,000 people do that. And maybe out of that, maybe only 100 come click on your website. Yeah. And then maybe 10 actually apply and have a call, and you get 2 or 3 sales out of it. And it's like, okay, well, even that one thing now
pays for itself.
Exactly.
Not to mention that I believe that a book is really it's a conversation with the author. When people read a book, it's really a conversation with that author. And I think we a lot of people have the luxury of, well, I've got social media, I've got YouTube, I've got Instagram. What about people who don't know you on those platforms, right? But they see a book that is in your field, that is you're talking about it, and they see it on the shelf, and all of a sudden now they get to know you and know what you talk about. Yeah,
it's a different experience too. Think about when you read a book. Think about how intimate that experience is.
It's an intimate experience,
and it's so much of your believability. Like I don't read too many books, or at least keep reading them, where like I don't absorb the information and just assume it's true. Yeah. Like I might check the citations and I'll do some research, but like if I'm reading a good book and I enjoy it, I'm absorbing that information. And I'm connecting with the inside of that mind of that author and their voice. And it's a different kind of intimate relationship versus if I'm watching a reel or a YouTube short, right? I still enjoy those, right? But it's just a different kind of connection with your audience and a way that you can really get inside their mind and sit with them in their private living room, wherever it is, without actually being there. So.
And not to mention that there are some people that, there's some influencers that I follow and authors and all that kind of stuff, but I got to get to know them and really appreciate them through their book.
Amazing.
And then now I see them, they'll do, they'll put some stuff, video on LinkedIn or YouTube or what have you, and I enjoy watching them. But their book was really what hooked me. It's what really kind of got me to connect with their ideas. And they might not even be as good on video medium or audio medium, but their book is phenomenal. So it becomes an additional tool of your ideas that may actually do better.
It's like instant authority.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you think that everybody has a book in them? And if so, how do you find it?
Nice.
So yeah, that's a great question.
I've thought about this a lot. Just I'm like, I don't know what book I've got in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is so whenever we like my sales team will have a call with someone who's just like, and we call them our manuscript strategist, right? Our sales team, because really that's kind of the thing. We get on a call. We're not trying to hard close someone into working with us. We first ask them like, okay, tell us about your history. What have you done? Where are you currently at? Then tell us about your future. Where do you want to get to? What do you want to do? What does this look like? If we fast forward 6 months, you have your best-selling book in your hand and you want to go on TED Talks, you want to go on stages, consulting. What does that look like? And then we can start to kind of work with that person to figure out what that book may be. I do feel like every single person has a story within them. And even if, and the funny thing is, every time people get on these calls, they're always like, I don't know, who am I to write a book, right? Who am I to write a book? Why should anyone listen to me? And it's usually the people that are like, yeah, you should probably write a book. You actually have a story. And we get to meet some of the most amazing people over and over again. Now, if there's someone who's, 17 and, doesn't have a ton of life experience yet, maybe wait to get some life experience, right? Like let's have some failures, have some successes, build up, that actual credibility and story first. But I do think even if you're that age, even if someone's young and they're just getting started, to share their story, whether it's in a blog or it's a post or something, continue to share and share and share. Even if the message feels like it's out there or you feel like someone did it already, and because there's 8 billion people and growing on this planet, and you could say you could tell the exact same lesson that I might share, and we say the same exact thing, like word for word, right? But there's people that are going to listen to you and go, I like that guy. I like what he said. It's amazing. They're going to look at me and go, I don't like him, or vice versa. Same thing. And they're like, I like how he said that. Yeah. And it's
the authenticity of the message, actually.
Yeah, and it's the way that the audience connects with the messenger too, right? Right. And so even if the story is similar, and again, after doing dozens or hundreds of books now, dozens of books every month now that we're publishing, is no story, even if it feels similar, is similar. There's always a unique perspective. There's always a unique story. There's always a unique lesson. So I do feel like everyone has a story. And not necessarily that everyone should be our client, right? I think we have a very specific client that we work with. But I do think everyone has a story, and I think everyone should either write or get their story out. So
What I mean, and I don't mean to again, it's kind of I'm not trying to make this into a pitch either, but what I mean, there's probably different levels of how much you can put into a book in terms of resource, whether that's money or your own time, or other people's time or whatever. Right? Do you want to just write a book to get your own thoughts out? Do you want to write a bestseller? Do you want to write a book, but you don't want to write it, but you don't care if it's a bestseller? I guess, how much do you guys differentiate? Are you only really interested in launching bestsellers with people? Or, I mean, I guess, what's the different path if somebody feels like they do have wisdom for a book? Should people DIY it? Should they? Yeah.
So it's a great.
I don't know what the question is in there. You dig out the question. And
I ask questions the same way.
I
say a lot of words. I say a lot of words, and I'm like, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
I get it.
We read minds.
Yeah, exactly. I'm I'm translating it. So a lot of our clients. So our clients consist of a lot of founders, Fortune 500 executives or CEOs or COOs or presidents, vice presidents. So they don't really have a lot of time, right? They're fulfilling, and there's coaches, there's consultants in there. They don't have a ton of time. And so for us, and that's why we built it, I built what I wish I would have had, right? What would work for me as a busy executive. And so when someone starts with us, they have their kind of onboarding call with their client success manager. They can send any notes they have, any to-do lists or ideas, or maybe cover like this, or I like this idea, it could do this, or titles or whatever. People always have some kind of what we call supplemental material, even if it's pages of stuff. And sometimes people will say, I have my book written, and then we'll go, we'll send it over. And we're like, nope, you don't. Write a book yet,
You don't got a blog.
What I wrote for, and so So we always take in everything, and with our client success manager, and then whoever, depending on the client, right? When they go through our onboarding process, there's a ton of different questions they answer. And through that, we figure out which one of our writers. We have like this stable of writers, right? And some of them have history, backgrounds more in, more marketing and business. Some are more on personal development. Some of them have written screenplays for Netflix, right? So there's these all kinds of different styles of writers that we have. And then we assign that writer to that client based on what their content is, their topic is, and a little bit their personality and their end goal. But then when we do that, like we write the book, we edit it, publish it, launch it, about everything. So if anyone's out there, like, again, I hand wrote all my books. I literally have the journal.
You didn't even use a typewriter.
I didn't use a typewriter. I mean, I could have used a typewriter and just smashed the type. Yeah, I know. Laptop. I have literally, yes. It's a picture book, actually. They're like, you wrote this, huh? I'm like, all by myself.
Job.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job. How many crayons did you go through?
So like with that, I mean, and again, and now with the advance of AI, people say, oh, I can use AI. It's like, feel free to. We don't. We tried our best to do, like, we're like, let's be ahead of the curve, and it's not there. It just doesn't get there.
Well,
the hallucinations start.
It's not personal.
It's a good brainstorming partner. But
exactly. I mean, send me some social media posts or something is fine, or analytical data if you know the data, so you can fact check it or not. But for us, yeah. So when we had that assigned writer, when you're meeting with your writer and your client success manager, we're digging through a lot of things about you and those questions and the material to find your voice, right? Not only what your voice is, but what do you love? Do you love reading The Economist, or do you love what is this? Your favorite books, your favorite authors, your favorite blogs. So we can find not only your voice, but the voices that the voice that you want to sound like, and then marry those things together and make sure it's content that is going to benefit you and your business, and also that you can speak on. We don't want to write this amazing book and then someone can't deliver on that message either. So there's a lot of this upfront work that goes into that, and then picking the title, picking the subtitle, the keywords for the organic SEO on Amazon, right? And all these different things, the thumbnail, which is now like YouTube, you think thumbnails, but Amazon, a cover is a thumbnail now, right? So there's so many of these aspects that you have to do the research up front before you ever get into even writing the book, right? Yeah. And actually getting to publishing. Yeah.
So, assuming somebody, and you don't have to give the exact pricing of like your offers or your levels or whatever, whatever.
$1 million.
Yeah, $1 million.
With this though.
Yeah.
Monthly payment.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Every 2
Recurring.
weeks, bi-weekly. No big deal.
We'll split it up in the payments.
into payments. But yeah, assuming somebody is like, okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm not going to DIY this whole thing. I'm going to, hire some sort of team to help me. I'm going to hire some sort of ghost writer to work with me and get my thoughts written out. Right. Like what level of resource should somebody have before they really start thinking about like, yeah, I'm ready for a book,
I would definitely, the thing is, even if they want to just like, I'm just going to hire a ghostwriter, so not work with us because we have the full team.
Yeah.
They would still need to have the time to now manage that ghostwriter. I'm going to hire my own designer for the book cover. Okay, now you need to manage that designer, right? So we're doing
you
all
guys
of that.
are like you're the one-stop shop.
Yeah. Exactly.
You are the high level. Do it all done.
Yeah.
For me. All
if you don't have time to
experience.
Yeah, and if you don't have time to write the book, so you need to hire a ghostwriter, then you probably don't have time to project manage the whole thing, right? Or design it or whatever else. So
or promote it.
Yeah, I think that is my point. It's like people have resource in the form of either to do something, get something done like a book.
Time or money.
Either time or money.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
So if you don't have the time, how much should you plan to invest in like putting a book out there that's a great book?
Yeah, I would tell them, so what we do, it can range, and whether it's with us or others, some of our competitors that are similar, not the exact same thing, can get up to $100,000 or $120,000. We don't charge that.
Yeah.
But I would definitely have.
I know ghostwriters out there alone that will charge at least $20,000 just for them as the ghostwriter.
Just because they're doing
not including anything else. Yeah.
Right. And they're not doing anything else. So
yeah. So I would definitely, I would set aside anywhere from $20,000 to $120,000.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going with a professional company and team that has the resources, has a team behind it. They want to launch a successful.
And have the JV partnerships to do a bestseller.
Know how to make the ROI. That's the big thing too. When when people talk about ghostwriting or even individual ghostwriters or companies, they're like, yeah, you're going to have a best-selling book. It's like, okay, that's great. Then how do I make money?
Yeah.
Where's the ROI? And again, maybe it's just my business mindset of owning other companies and scaling or acquisitions, but it's like.
It's your strategy mindset too.
Exactly. If you're going to invest money, you should know where that ROI is coming from. And so when we work with a client, we map out like, if you're going to spend X amount of thousands of dollars, then we want to make sure there's a strategy for the 18 to 24 months afterwards that now you can add $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in new annual added revenue to your, your business. And the book can be the vehicle that does that. And so that's what we show our clients how to do, not in just a feel good way. Like it does feel good, but in a very logical step-by-step process.
And before the show, at one point, Corey, we were talking about this idea of optimizing, right? Of building an engine, and essentially this idea of the the book can be part of that engine building that you're doing, and part of a bigger strategy. And you guys do that. It sounds like you've done that with authors.io. You've done that. Now, what do you envision after you've built this really cool engine building thing with authors.io? What do you envision is the future for growth and innovation with it? Where do you want to take it?
That's a great question. And you were talking about this earlier with mission and purpose and all of that. And so, for us getting to be like, we get to work with some people that are the most influential people in the world. And so it's really, it's not something we take for granted. And knowing that not only we get to work with them, like that's a cool experience, some of the stories, right? And all the alphabet soup of the 3-letter agencies and all that, like some of those clients or governments or whatever else of these executives, but we get to help them draft the narrative of what they share, what their message is. And so knowing that we have that impact to kind of be the influencer behind the influencers, right? That we get to have that power and that ability. We really want to make sure we can get, as many books written as possible and influence people in just a little bit of a way, right? A little bit of a way possible. As we scale this up, I always build to exit. That's always my, my concept, because I've done it before where I didn't.
We're talking about this at
and I've done it before where I didn't. And then it's just like, you can scale the personal brand, right? You have a book, the TED Talk, you scale the personal brand. There's ways to do that. Scaling a business, a company, you don't want it to be a personal brand.
No, it's got to be something.
Those are separate.
Got to run on its own.
Yeah, you don't want key man risk.
Yeah, so we have this amazing team, and I don't know if we ever will exit. I know we're building it with the option. That's kind of what I explain to people, is that because I love our clients, I love our team, so it's like I don't want to just like, and I mean, I'm sure you get this as well. It's like I don't want to be like, okay, at some point I'm just gonna walk away from this. I can't see myself ideally doing that, at least right now, because I love our team and I love our clients, but I built it in a way that I could. Like I have a 4.5-year-old daughter who is going to start, doing her schooling soon. So I have, since she was born, built my life and my days in a way that I can spend as much time with her as possible. So I work on Mondays, Tuesdays, and like half of Wednesdays. And then the rest of the week, from like Wednesdays until Monday mornings, I'm just playing with her. We're going to the beach, we're hanging out. And so in order to be able to have that kind of schedule, I've had to force myself to build a business with the end goal of exiting in mind. So that way I have project managers and COOs and directors of sales and marketing, all that, everything in place to be able to have that option. Now, will I ever do it? I don't know, because I love what we do, but that's the option there.
I love that. I love everything that you do. I love how passionate you are about it.
It's obvious.
It like just seeps through the conversation, any conversation on this podcast or with you in person. If those that are resonating out there with Corey's message, how can they find you? Obviously authors.io, but it's spelled a different way. So let them know.
Yes. I'll spell it out. AUTHRS.io. So authors without the O in there. There's no fancy cool one-liner. I wanted to make up one someday, but I never did. And so authors.io, you can search us on YouTube, or on Google, Instagram, all the socials, LinkedIn. You can also find me, CoreyGladwell.com, Gladwell, like Malcolm Gladwell, but I'm not as great of an author yet. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect there. On Instagram at Corey S. Gladwell, Facebook at Corey S. Gladwell. And all the other socials out there as well. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you flying in out here to Vegas.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
Yeah, we appreciate that feedback. And those of you that are watching that you've resonated with this episode, be sure to comment, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we'll see you in the next episode.